thing. So this meeting is being recorded. You probably all heard that. And we'll call the meeting to order. And I'm going to share the screen and show the agenda. And whoops. And can everybody see?
It's coming up.
Okay.
It's there.
And should I make it a little smaller so we see more at one time, or is this a good size?
It's good to me.
Okay. So, so I'm just going to then scroll through the agenda so we can all see what we have. I don't know if Lizzie will be here for election update, but I have a little bit of an update. Then committee business, standing rules update, administrative packet draft update, or draft actually, review the inventory report, discuss the governing board retreat in July, and any updates regarding revisions to the board member handbook. In theory, we will have a guest arriving to talk to us about the program that she and other community members are doing at Pico and Fifth, I think. And then Greg, the updates on board member training, discussion of board meeting agenda items, committee reports, if any, secretary's report, if any, treasurer's report, if any, and that's the agenda. So,
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
okay, Greg moves that the agenda be approved as presented. Is there a second?
Oh,
I second.
Was that Nancy or Hugo?
It was
Yeah.
me.
I'm sorry, I can't see or hear who's talking. I apparently need to raise my audio or turn off
It was you.
my air conditioner. I'd really like not to turn off the air conditioner.
Leave the
so
air conditioner on.
Can we,
enjoy.
somebody tell me again who seconded the
Hugo.
motion?
Hugo.
Okay. Greg moved and Hugo seconded. All in favor, just say aye or raise your
Aye.
hands.
Aye.
Laura's an aye. Hugo's an aye. And
Nancy's an aye.
okay. And oh, I see. Hugo is seconded in chat. Okay. Are there any public comments or announcements on any item not on the agenda tonight? Anybody
Yes.
have any public comments? Great.
Well, it's more of a question. Members that are no longer going to be on the board that will still remain on their committees. They want to know if they still can keep their email because they're doing city work.
Yes, I was going to discuss that with Raheem, but I think the normal way would be that they get, instead of tom.smith@unnc.org, the committee gets an email account. So for example, there's planning@unnc.org. It's been in existence a long time.
Right.
There's COMM for the communications committee. There's elections@unnc.org. So in particular, homelessness liaison Tori wants to keep her own, but I don't think we can. I think
Okay.
what we can do is create her a new one that's
Okay.
more to the committee. But we can talk about that best at communications on Thursday.
All right, sweet.
Okay. Is there any other public comment or announcement on any item not on tonight's agenda? Okay, Greg, I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna make you a co-host because I'm paying too much attention to the waiting room, and then I'm gonna let Judy into the meeting. Okay. Next item is the UNNC election update. Lizzie has emailed our the clerk of elections, our clerk who handled our election, to find out statistically how many people applied for ballots, how many people actually voted. We have not gotten an answer yet. And otherwise, we do have our list of newly elected board members, and have reached out to them to congratulate them. And the next step is an email from me outlining some of their next steps. And then Greg, I guess the third email comes from you about training. Right. So, and Gibson has not responded, so I think we'll just take it on our own and just go ahead and move forward.
Yeah, I just, like I said, in my email inquiry, I just need everybody's email. So that
Yeah,
I can contact them.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I just need to receive their emails so that I can contact them.
Right. So
And,
one of the things that goes in my email will be
Yes.
a question as to what email they want to use, because some of the candidates created style emails,
Right.
and that may or may not be the emails they want to continue to use. So
Got it.
that's part of my email. And then we also need Raheem to create the new email, the UNNC emails for them. They won't be able to do training without the UNNC emails, but we can't just assume that their candidates' emails, because those are public, are the ones they wanted to utilize.
Understood.
Right.
So
for-
do we create the emails, or does the city automatically?
we create the emails,
Okay.
but they need to go to an email that the person wants it to go to.
Right.
Right. So
Like,
so we're rushing, but we can be a little patient because the new board members take their seats on July 1st and not before. And
okay.
So essentially, I will say it does not appear to me that more than 100 or even 100 people voted. It was very, very low
Yeah, it was low.
turnout.
It was low.
And yeah, and I think, right, I'm saying this sort of as the co-chair, but maybe just as the observer. I think we will want to, it's not urgent, take some sort of policy position and write a letter addressing vote by mail and how it
Yes.
worked, and mostly how it did not work, and our desire not to make it the 100% method of voting or something.
Yes.
But that'll be something that not till, say, August or September.
Right.
So, but we got really good people.
Good.
So
Thank you, good people.
really, really great people. Okay. Next, any questions or anything else on the election?
Nope.
Moving on.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Just really briefly, I still think it might be a good idea to implement some kind of voting that doesn't have to be in person or by mail, but that we can still verify somehow, and with enough time, I think we can figure out something.
What do you mean that's not either in person or by mail? Is there a third kind?
Yeah, either something like by email or making some account or something like that.
Yeah, a single neighborhood council would not be able to implement that kind of change.
Right.
99 neighborhood councils might have the ability to do that.
Right.
But yeah,
But we can always be the ones who kind of
we could.
Suggest it.
Right. I mean, in other words, we need to, I mean, this method didn't work very well in South LA, period. The voting numbers in South LA were, or at least region 10, where we are, were very, very low. And, but out in the valley, there was at least one neighborhood council had 1,000 voters. So it's like, there's a lot of thought that has to go into what worked, why it worked, and what didn't work. But I will say it was very, very difficult for many, many people to navigate the online portal to request a ballot. And we didn't have the issues of some of the neighborhood councils, but a number of the Empowerment Congress neighborhood councils, so there's multiple, because they have so many different rules for voting and so many categories for voting, they had a lot of errors in people got the wrong ballots. And the city clerk was spending time on election day driving to people's houses, handing them corrected ballots. So, this is no way to run an election. But again, we're not gonna solve these problems at executive committee of UNNC. So this is something I think that really does need a look-see citywide. And there is a council motion moving ahead that's addressing not the aspects that concern us, but the voter identification rules, is another issue. But we don't have that issue because we have self.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, we could just talk about it later. Yeah.
Right. So we can talk about it later because we're trying to charge fast through this agenda. So, okay. Next, and we're on time. Next item is number 4, executive committee business, but then there's a lot of items. So A, standing rules updates, a discussion and status report regarding updating sections of the standing rules which are out of date or in conflict with current UNNC practices. Nancy, do you want to?
Yes, can I share my screen or?
Yes, do you have the some
Yes.
recent version to share? Oh, yes, but I have to let you, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Now you can share your screen. So sorry.
Okay, let me. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have, Laura and I have updated the standing rules. My goal is for the governing board meeting to prepare a PowerPoint, just summarizing what the changes have been. But for this meeting, I can walk through the document itself if you have not had an opportunity to review. So I will summarize each section briefly. And if you have any questions, if we could wait till the end, that would be great. Okay, so starting with the first item. So we added a purpose statement to the standing rule so that everyone is aware as to what the purpose of these standing rules are. And they really are to administer, to assist the governing board and its standing committees in administering their respective affairs. The other change that we made is the Code of Civility, which I think there's a typo here. But this Code of Civility is provided by Dunn, and every neighborhood council has it copied verbatim in their standing rules. So what we did is it was already in our standing rules, but at the end, and so we moved it to the top so that it's front and center as to how we want the board members to conduct themselves. Let me move forward. I'm not going to read through the whole document. The third item is the parliamentarian. So our standing rules have always contemplated that there would be a parliamentarian that would attend the governing board meeting and the standing rule and the standing committees to rather just the governing board meeting actually and the executive committee meeting to help with moving forward items and to make sure that we are on time. It previously contemplated that there would only be one parliamentarian, but it's a lot of meetings to, it's a commitment to attend both executive committee meetings and governing board meetings. So we made it one or more parliamentarians. And hopefully that's a position that will appoint in the next fiscal year. Let's see, so the fourth section is the conduct of meetings. So here most of these provisions had already been in the standing rules, and they really are around timekeeping and established rules as to how long presentations have to be, how many minutes each person has to speak, and what motions we're able to make. We did not make many changes to this section because I think it's something that needs to be looked into further. And it's something that hopefully for the next fiscal year, the committee that Dorit wants to be part of will actually go ahead and try and establish best practices as to how we want to run the meetings. So for now, what we did is, because we're currently not following the rules of that the presentations are 5 minutes, and that then the Q&A is from people from the audience, after which the chair has to accept only 4 types of motions. And then extending time in discussing a specific item requires 2/3 vote. We have added a provision that it's unless otherwise stated on the agenda that has been approved by the executive committee, to give us some leeway here, because we haven't been following this procedure, and I'm not sure for how long we haven't been following the procedure, but it's something we need to look into as to how we want to manage that. The other big change that we made here is F. So one practice that we have been following in the recent past is that any motion that's recommended by a committee, the person that makes the first motion to hear the issue, or rather the motion to approve the recommendation, has to be a member of that committee. So we added that language to the standing rules, that the committee member will make the first motion, and then like all other motions, it has to be seconded by someone else. So number 5, training. The change we made here is, instead of listing the specific trainings, we made it more open-ended, that people have to complete all trainings required by DUN. As you may be aware, there are new training requirements that are coming through the pipeline that we are not specifically aware of, and instead of listing each training, we just want to complete all training that's being required by DUN. They have 4 months they have to complete that training within 4 months of being seated on the UNNC governing board. And if they do not complete their training within 6 months, then they can go to the executive board to be removed. So that's one way that a board member can be removed. This language was already in the previous standing rules, but I wanted to highlight it for you. The next 2 changes that we made is 6 and 7. So there are certain expectations that resident or area reps, which resident region reps, that's how they're defined in our bylaws, and at-large board members. There are certain responsibilities that we expect of them, but there was nowhere where it was made clear what the expectation was. So we added these 2 sections. And really, these expectations came from Section 8, where if area reps or at-large board members do not meet or complete these responsibilities, then there's the possibility of asking them to leave the board. And so we just wanted to make clear what those responsibilities are in an affirmative way, rather than just listing it in Section 8 with respect to removal of board members. Let me see. Let's see. So for Section 8, removal of board members, we did not make any changes to that. Number 9, standing committees. So the changes that we made to this section are, every year, what we did is, instead of listing every single standing committee that we've had in the past, we narrowed the list to only include executive committee, outreach committee, and planning and zoning committee. So those are standing committees that will exist every year, and the board doesn't have to vote to add them or remove them. However, we've had trouble, finding chairs for just the amount of standing committees that we have. And sometimes we're not able to find chairs chairs for the committee. So what we've done is we've added language that from time to time, the board may also approve, add, or disband any standing committees, including the following. So we've listed the standing committees that we've had in the past. And at the beginning of each fiscal year, we can vote, if people are interested to serve as chairs of these standing committees, then the board as a whole will vote. Will vote to have these standing committees, and then we'll vote for the chairs. But so that we don't forget what those standing committees are, we decided to keep a list here of what we have had in the past. Another item that we added is our standing committees are run differently than I think many other neighborhood councils, as Laura has mentioned in the past. We only appoint chairs, and then after that, any stakeholder or board member can attend a committee meeting and they'll be considered a member of the committee, which is different than under other neighborhood councils where they appoint board members to serve on the committee in addition to chairs. And so we added the paragraph here, starting with all other standing committees operate per California Open Meetings Act, as a way to preserve the way that we run our standing committees, because it seems that John and Laura, you may have more insight on this, but it seems that there might be some changes in Dunn as to how they think standing committees of the neighborhood council need to operate.
It's not so much changes as senior experienced staff members of Dunn have moved on to other jobs, and younger, less experienced staff members have arrived. Somebody made an interpretation that a committee can be attended by no more than 1/2 of quorum of any particular board. So for us, the magic number is 6. And that is a true statement. If it's an ad hoc committee where you're appointing, you cannot appoint more than that 1/2 of quorum. Or, a subcommittee, a specialized committee, but it is not a true statement for standing committees, and which the Brown Act makes clear. So since we also want to make sure that every at-large board member participates in at least one committee, and we also want to make sure that our regional reps or the area reps attend standing committee meetings where they have agenda items that are within their region, we could easily go over 6 people at any particular committee meeting. So what the Brown Act, the concern at Dunn, the concern at the city attorney, is that if too many people attend a committee meeting, they may have a prejudgment of the item when we get to governing board, which is probably true, but that would also make our meetings shorter. But in any case, the Brown Act says if you have a standing committee, and that's this section we're adding here, it's on our agendas. It has been approved. This language exactly has been approved by the city attorney. That's why we've been able to continue to operate in our way. This has been vetted already, but I thought it best to add it to the standing rules as well. And what it basically says, a standing committee is a legislative body. And if it's a legislative body, nothing prevents the attendance of the majority of members of that legislative body. The example at City Hall, City Council would simply be many of the city council committees have 5 or more appointed members. And so they are routinely exceeding 1/2 of their quorum. So quorum at City Council is 8. And they have many committees that are 5 or 6 people. So, so we know that this section is accurate. And I just thought this is me adding it, that since it's already been approved for our agendas, we should just add it to the standing rules as well. It's the same language. And Nancy, you had a question about that language. Nothing in this section prevents, and what section is it?
Yeah, no, I know. I saw your email, Laura.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That's right. Okay. So that's summary.
Okay. And then The next changes on the standing committee is that so it used to say that the standing committees have to come up with a mission statement. And so what we've done is, because most of the standing committees already have a previous mission statement, we've revised it so that they update their current mission statement. And that mission statement will be approved by the executive committee. Obviously, this change was mostly made because in the last governing board meeting, no one wanted to go through the various mission statements. But again, this is up for review. So if the governing board changes its mind, we can change that to read governing board. Once the mission statement is approved, then it will be posted on the UNNC website. Chairs of standing committees. So this language was already there. I think the only change is that is to clarify that the UNNC will appoint the chairs at a meeting of the governing board. The appointment has to be within 2 months. Sorry, let me see. The appointment has to occur by the second meeting of the fiscal year. B responsibilities goes through the responsibilities of committee chairs. The main change here is the fact that committee chairs will endeavor to take minutes or recordings of their respective meetings and provide them upon request. Previously, it stated that they had to take minutes, but my understanding, and Laura, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's that they can either take minutes or they have to be able to provide recordings if someone from the public requests them. So we've made that clear here. The other change is that clarifying that any written materials to be distributed to the public require approval by 2 UNNC officers not involved in drafting the written materials. So this would be any committee correspondence, any flyers, any website updates, etc.
So Nancy,
The
can I
next
actually ask a question about that? I think, how do we clarify? The committee correspondence that states a position. I mean, every committee chair does an awful lot of corresponding with their respective city departments, you know, arranging meetings and speakers, or trying to find out the status of a project. You know, I think that might need this is more about stating a UNNC position, maybe.
Okay, let me finish going through the changes. And
Sorry.
No worries. 11 agendas. So so we just clarified that we clarified the making of agendas. You know, the fact that the agenda for the governing board has to be approved by the executive committee. We've stated that it has to be 1 week before the board meeting. This might be a lofty goal, but that's what we're going to endeavor to do, that the governing board meeting agenda would be approved 1 week before. And then to the extent permissible, this language is because of COVID, the officers responsible for posting the agenda will post it in the public places that are required. The same thing with standing committees. We've created a goal that the standing committee chairs will submit their meeting agendas to the executive committee, and then whoever's responsible on the executive committee, it's currently the president, but it can always be someone else if necessary. We've left that open-ended. That whoever's responsible in the executive committee for the standing committee agendas will review the agenda, and then we'll post it with the city. The chairs must submit the agenda 5 calendar days before their meeting. Again, this is a lofty goal, but that's what we're going to try to train people to do. The next item is on committee membership. So here we've just expanded to clarify that any stakeholder can attend a standing committee and has the right to participate and make motions in addition to voting in that meeting. 13 rules for use of UNNC online accounts and UNNC name. So one major change here is that we want to make sure that 2 officers have the login information for any UNNC online accounts. And so we've stated that we've designated the president and the secretary to maintain that login information. I don't think right now that it's maintained by one person. So that's something that we need to work on to make sure that the president and secretary have access to all of that login information. In addition, we've made the chairs of the communications committee responsible for maintaining the UNNC social media accounts. For example, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, to the extent that we have that. Letter C is we have to come up with a social media policy. So we just wrote here that the governing board will endeavor to establish a social media policy in accordance with applicable requirements. D is we added a provision that to the extent, as a matter of best practice, a board member should not discuss publicly or respond publicly on social media with respect to any matter that may come for a vote at the governing board. And so we did this to avoid any conflict. So this is a matter of best practice. Laura, I don't know if you want to give more background on this provision.
Well, just a little bit. The Brown Act itself has actually just been changed to address this kind of thing in more detail, but it's also very confusing. It's like 4 pages of confusion. And then as well in our ethics training, it sort of addresses this. So this exact language may not fly, but it's the first stab at it, where basically there are so many opportunities on Facebook groups, but also other blog sites, Urbanize LA and the Real Deal, which is a real estate site, to add your comments. And and the Brown Act, the state legislature just redid the Brown Act, and there's already criticism that too many people are commenting on items that they will then later vote on, and is partly to avoid influencing other board members, just in case other board members are reading the same social media things. So this was my stab at it based on what's in the Brown Act, but it may not fly with the board, is what I'm trying to say. Because there's also an issue of the First Amendment and the right to speak. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say about it. I mean, it's like, it's my first stab. I think Dunn and the city attorney are trying to address this as well. So there may be actual language from Dunn coming forward.
Okay, and then the last provision that we added because of COVID is just the ability for UNNC, or not the ability because it's already allowed by Dunn, but just the fact that we're going to be meeting virtually, utilizing the protocols by Dunn as guidance. Okay, so now we can open up the floor for questions, comments, suggestions. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Well, can I give kudos to Nancy, because she just really went deep into this. Is that a kudos?
Yeah. Indeed, yeah.
Okay, Greg, you have your hand up, and then Hugo.
Okay, so again, echoing what you said about great work for the team. My first question is, when will we present this to the governing board to discuss? That's so I have like a series of questions. So that's question number 1.
Okay. So I can answer that, Greg. So I think we'll be doing it at the next meeting. So I think that's scheduled for June 28th at
Okay.
7.
Okay.
29, I think.
All right.
Okay.
And then my second concern is that when we do that, I can just see that this taking up a good hour of discussion. That's just a thought. I mean, I just think it's going to take up a lot of concern, a lot of time, as it
Yes,
should. Okay. And then these are things that we don't need to answer now, but these are things that I think that I'm concerned about when we discuss it. In
Okay.
section 3, the parliamentarian, my question will be, will the parliamentarian, if it's one or two, would that person be a member of the executive board? So that will be, and again, we don't need to discuss it now, but that's just a question I will ask and during that time. For number 4, the issue of 4 months for people to do training, I will argue that that is too generous for us to allow someone to be on the board for a quarter of the year, or a third of the year, and not complete all the training. So I would advocate for a shorter time frame for people to complete their training. On the discussion that we had about the standing committee, there needs to be a brief cliff note discussion of standing committees versus ad hoc committees, but without making that too long of a discussion. I will always be a big advocate for actual minutes being taken in the meetings, because listening to the video of the recording is just too long. And then I understand for section 11, when we talked about asking for the agenda to be ready. I know we will hear that Brown Act requires us to post the agendas within 72 hours. So, but we're making a distinction between having it ready and posting it.
Mhm.
And then I will personally advocate for access to the accounts. I will advocate for the president to have access, and then I will advocate for the vice president to have access, vice the secretary. But that's just, I'm just giving a preview of what things I will. But again, I'm not asking for us to discuss those things, but those are just things that I will bring up or listen while we're discussing those items. But again, thank you. Good work. A lot of work. A lot of hard work.
Hugo, I'm sorry. Did you want Nancy or myself to answer anything, or do you want me to go on to? Was any of that needing an answer in the moment?
No, because it's not.
Yeah.
I just know it's just going to be we just need to have our thoughts ready for that, and I just have my thoughts. But
You're saying we need to violate the rules right away and put it on the agenda for a longer period of time and not just 5 minutes.
There's no way that this is a 5-minute discussion.
So,
Just
one thing that
No way. This is a whole afternoon workshop. We know it.
So one thing that I do want to do is, if we're not, to the extent that we're not going to make any further revisions, and Hugo, I know you haven't spoken, but my goal is to send it to all of the board members ahead of time so that they can start reviewing it now and be ready for their discussion points in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I think just it will take time to discuss, because
Right.
there's a lot of substantive stuff there, and just a lot of things that I wasn't aware of as a board member that we
Right.
had to follow.
Right.
Right.
But it's very good for us to review these and go over it and give people opportunity to read it, and then to even talk about it in the workshop that we have also. So.
Well, I know Hugo had his hands up, and we'll go back to him. This is my feeling, Greg. If you're right, then we just keep working on it. But you know, it could be that if Nancy's able to send this to everybody, and Nancy, I think we would want to send the new version and the original so people can compare them, because this is not actually that different in content. In format it is, but
Yes, it's not really in format.
right, but we were, the official goal was to kind of figure out things that we're really not doing, we shouldn't have there. And
Right.
most of the stuff was lofty goal and we kept it. It's not truly all that different. But I think we need to try and approve it, and then table it if we can't do it within a certain period of time would be the way to set the agenda item. You know, limit the time on the agenda item, and we either can approve it at that point or not. Hugo, did you have?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you, Nancy, for all the hard work, and also you, Laura. You seemed like you were involved in it too. Um, and some of the suggestions that I have, I agree with Greg about the training deadlines. I think 4 months is way too much. I can't remember how long I took to complete it. But I think if someone gets elected and they're very serious about it, they're likely to attend the meetings, and it's best for them to be able to vote as soon as possible. So I think I maybe it's a little too strict, but I would be on the side of saying that you just get like one meeting after you get elected, to have that, you know, grace period, and then if you haven't completed it by then the seat should open up for someone who's ready to do it. I think 4 months is way too much, so I would say either 1 month or 2 months max. And then I wanted to ask, so with modifying the status of the standing committees, like being able to add or remove, why did it apply to only those but not the other ones? My guess is that those are the ones that are least active, like historically, like Economic Development Committee, and Jefferson Park Safety Committee more recently, and some of the other ones there. But why were those selected and not the other ones? I'm kind of confused as to what criteria.
Yeah, I think that's right for executive committee and planning and zoning committee. I think, you know, we have to have an executive committee, and then for planning and zoning, it's always been
Right.
chaired.
And we have to have, I'm sorry, we have to have outreach because it's a required category. All neighborhood councils must conduct outreach. So we have to have an outreach committee.
Okay. Is there a class of required standing committees? If there is, I think maybe it would be good to include them, so it can be clear that these are the ones that always have to be present. Like, let's say executive committee, outreach, planning and zoning.
Well, there is a line there is a section that says that. All the other ones are the flexibles.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
Yeah,
and
we
the
did. You're right. We went through this very fast.
Yes. And one of the reasons we did that, Hugo, is because otherwise we would need to amend the standing rules every year, right? Because then what we've done in the past is the standing rules list all of the standing committees, but we don't always have all of the standing committees. So
Right.
we try to just narrow it to the one that we have to have, and then the one that always is chaired, with the flexibility for the board to every year choose to add more.
Or
Okay.
subtract.
And my question is,
Or
in a situation where, let's say there's a standing committee that isn't active anymore, and then it doesn't get voted to be a standing committee, and then someone wants to start it, like let's say in the middle of the year, what would be the process for that? Would it be possible or no?
Yes, that it would go up to a vote for the board.
Okay, so a vote would be necessary at any point in the year. It can be done.
Yeah.
At any
Yes.
point.
No rule that, yeah, there's no rule that it has to be done at the beginning of the year.
Okay, that's what I was confused about.
It's just that we have to appoint the chairs at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
But the
Of the ones that exist,
of the ones that exist, exactly.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, standing committee can be started at any time of the year.
Okay, so if a standing committee is created, like let's say in the middle of the year, then the chairs would also be appointed same time?
Mhm.
Would be linked? Okay. Okay. And
And
then,
yeah, and I think functionally, if someone dreams up a brand new standing committee, I mean, now there's two choices. One is, you know what? I've decided I want to run the youth committee. That nobody's done that for some time. But we have a mission statement already adopted for the youth committee. We just haven't had a committee. So that's easy. But if somebody's proposing a brand new out of the blue, it doesn't exist committee, they would probably, in order to propose it, need to draft a mission statement, right? I mean, in other words, so we'd be approving all of it at the same time. So that's not, I don't think we need to have that process spelled out in the standing rules, but conceptually, if you're just reactivating an existing committee, you've got a mission statement anyway. And if you're dreaming up a new one, you'd have to write a mission statement, one would think.
okay, and yeah, I was confused with the mission statement part too. So with that, I forgot what I was gonna ask, so never mind. And I think that's it. I was also gonna make a comment about the amount of reps per area. At the moment, I'm at large rep, but for Region 1, I feel it's way too much for just 2 people to represent. And I tried hard, but it was just near impossible for me. That's the region where I was living at, and it's just near impossible for me. And I feel maybe, I don't know how it would be split up. I attended the redistricting meeting for the city councils. I think it was last week, and they kind of talked about the way that they district it. And one of the ways they do it is by population number. I don't know how we would do that, but I think that would be a good path to take, because Region 1 is just way too big. And I forget what's the other region that's also really big, that it's also hard to kind of represent it.
Region 5, Jefferson Park.
Yeah. And so I think just to really make it fair for the individual, it might be good to apportion it, to make it so that they're proportional in number, in population.
Yeah, we've actually discussed this lots of times over the year, because I've personally advocated that we add 2 more regions, thus increasing the size of the board. And then the question becomes, do we have to add more regional reps to keep balance? So it would be really increasing the size of the board. I mean, that's where it sort of bogs down. But Region 1, really, Arlington should be a dividing line, because though geographically the Angeles Vista section that, I live from Washington to Pico and Western to Arlington, geographically it's smaller, but those are those huge properties with huge density. So, right. But I've lost that many times. It's also not part of the standing rules. This would be a significant bylaws change. And the Dunn will set a time period when a neighborhood council can, there's only certain times what that bylaws may even be considered for change. So, okay. But it's not it's not a part of the standing rules. But trust me, we also, our original bylaws that somehow got edited by Dunn somewhere early on, I don't know when. Our original bylaws also had the ability for us to appoint up to 3 additional board members with annual seats instead of 4-year seats, to provide for, essentially coverage or diversity. And it was to be, we were going to be allowed to have up to 3 one-year appointments each year if we needed them. And that was in the original bylaws, but has long since disappeared. I don't know why. But that might be a way, easier way to accommodate your concern. But again, that's a bylaws change, not a standing rules.
Okay, got it. Okay, so for a bylaws change, that would be what Nancy said. Dorit is trying to lead, right?
No, that would be, I think the last time they changed the bylaws was around December, I want to say.
Well, we didn't do anything, Nancy. That was the city changed our bylaws. But there will be a window opening maybe in a year, maybe less than a year, where neighborhood councils can create bylaw committees and make proposed changes to their bylaws.
Got it. Well, in that case, if that has to do with something else, then that's all I have
Right.
to say. Yeah, I'm done with questions. Thank you.
And also I wanted to address, Greg, when you talked about how we run ad hoc committees or standing committees, that's actually in the bylaws. It says what we do there.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to do that again in the standing rules. I mean, it's a weirdness of that there's two documents, but the blessing of standing rules is we can edit them every 4 months if we wanted to. There's no requirements on Dunn's part for how often we do it.
Yeah,
It's just busy work and takes a lot of time, as we just discovered.
My point is just being clear of this is the definition and use of ad hoc, and this is the definition and use and requirements of standing rules. But just give it really concise so that, so we don't get confused with all the verbiage, short version, major bullet points, and then so people can grasp.
Right. Well, I do think, and Nancy, maybe you can figure this out, because I think we do probably also need to clarify that a standing committee stops being a standing committee if it doesn't have a certain number of meetings on a regular schedule. And if they're not a standing committee, then the no more than 6 board members may attend rule does apply. So I don't know if we need to say that in the standing rules.
Why do they get disbanded? Is that a self-imposed rule, or is that just the rule?
I think I think it's just a rule, but now one of our board members asked me a similar question, say, where'd that rule come from? It's like, I don't know, but there is a rule. I just don't know where it is. And but to invoke that Brown Act legislative body rule, right? You have to be a standing committee, whatever that may mean. I just don't know how often or how regular that means. I mean, I personally interpret it as at least quarterly, but that's just me making it up.
Okay, because I wonder if it needs to be in the standing rules, or it's just an FYI to let people know, right? Because
I think it's an FYI to let people know.
Greg, one question I had on the training, Hugo said 1 to 2 months. What have you seen it takes people to?
Yes. Okay, so no, go ahead, Nancy.
Oh no, I guess what's your recommendation?
Well, my thing is that we just copy the verbiage from the city on the area. And then, like, even when I do the training report, they later on the agenda, it talks about, you'd be suspended after 30 days and you have another 30 days to complete your training. And if you haven't done that after that 30 days and you're kicked out.
But that's the code of conduct, right?
Right. But we should, my point is that we just follow the same pattern as far as time frame and verbiage as closely as we can. And from that pattern, what I will argue is that this is the pattern that we see that the city requires, and we should follow that same pattern in our requirements. And the extent was just to say, we just make that 60 days to specifically answer your question, that 60 days based upon what the city requires for all of our training, that once you've been selected to the board, if you haven't completed all your training within 60 days, with the exception of if you didn't receive your login information, or if you haven't completed your training within 60 days of receiving your login information, then you are removed from the board. But after the first month, we're always providing reminders to people, you need to do this, and here you go, and let me help you with it. So 60 days, I'm going to recommend 60 days.
And I think that's good, actually, because it says within being seated on the board.
Right.
So obviously, if Dunn imposes, and they will, some new trainings, and there's going to be a diversity and anti-bias training, for example, Dunn will set a time frame for those.
Right.
But then going forward, if a person's seated on our board next May, I'm making up a date because we have a vacancy, they should have 60 days to do all of the trainings.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So I have to take my ethics and code of conduct training again in the next 2 weeks, for example, and I know it, and I must.
You should do.
I should, because it expires around July 1 or on July 1.
It expires in July.
I mean, I know that. And anyway, so I would go along with that recommendation.
Okay. Well,
And
I'm gonna
then-
just, again,
Okay, so then I'll
Can I point out that it is 7:59? Hugo has his hand up again.
yes.
I'm just confused by how this applies to standing rules. I guess my understanding was that this was about the standing committees, but then no, it's not about standing
Not
committees.
completely.
Not completely.
There's 13 sections.
Okay. Okay.
So
Because
the standing rules don't apply. They're just rules to help administer
Right.
administer how the governing board and its standing committees work. So you can,
okay.
it's really, you can add what you want
Okay, because
in terms of rules.
okay, in that case, I wanted to suggest about the elections that happen, not the elections, but the votes that we do as a governing board to elect people. Like when we say there's a vacancy, run for this position. So with that, I think in situations like that, we need more than a week to get the word out. But in the present moment, would it be only a week that of a minimum time that we have on paper that we have to tell people about a vacancy that they can run for? I don't know
So
if that makes
that's
David.
on any document. Oh, go ahead.
It's
not a
not,
rule that's
that's
on
not
any
in the standing rules. I'm looking now to see what it says in the bylaws. But we've never had only just a week, Hugo. We might have had just a week before executive committee.
Yeah, and
Right.
then I think there's also a change that will probably can be handled by the committee that we want to start for the next fiscal year, because I think this consideration needs to be made on like how we want to run other things. We just modified the basic document and corrected for errors, blatant errors, and then also just fix the formatting.
Okay, got it. All right. I guess I'll bring it up next time. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that committee is going to start until the new fiscal year. So,
Okay. And when would that be again? Sorry.
July.
Yeah. Okay.
It would have to get voted by the board. And, okay. If
Thanks.
there are no other questions.
So what do we need to do to accept the change suggested on the timeframe for, I mean, do we just do it? Do we need to vote?
No, we
What?
don't, because the governing board votes for the standing rules. So it needs, I mean, I'll make the change, I'll highlight the change at the meeting, but the board members need to vote on them, on the entire document.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and just a quick answer for Hugo, the bylaws do not tell us how we appoint, just that we can and should appoint someone to fill a vacancy. It's just a simple sentence. If there's a vacancy, the board shall appoint someone to fill out the term. So what it does say is for the whole term. You know, so that's an important thing to know. It's not till the next election. It is for, you know, in other words, we have these rotating terms, so we can, so someone doesn't have to stand for election soon after they've been appointed unless the seat expires because of, you know, in that time. But it doesn't tell us how.
Yeah.
And I don't think the standing, well, I mean, we have a lot of things that we do that were never addressed in anything, but I don't think we should be looking at how we've done things in a COVID pandemic as a good or bad guideline for real life.
Right. Yeah. The reason I was asking was because I think instead of setting maybe 60 days for them to do their training, I was thinking maybe doing 45 days. And then at that point, we can say that there's a vacancy 2 weeks in advance before the next meeting.
Yeah, I am not, I mean, we have to be very careful because Dunn has, the city council has actually added language that ended up in our bylaws about how one removes people. So I'm not sure
Yeah,
we can just bing, you're done.
No, we can't do that.
So
does that apply to the 60-day thing as well?
yeah, no,
sorry?
it would apply even to our 4-month thing. I'm saying the less reasonable we are, the less likely we're gonna sneak something through, is what I'm trying to say. You know, so 45 days seems less reasonable than 60. 60 seems very reasonable. 2 full months,
Right.
2 full months plus a little more times after an election. 2 different situations. I mean, so like, in other words, people who just were elected will have from about maybe a week from now till August 31st, meaning as soon as Dunn gives them their cornerstone logins, I don't know when that happens, they can start taking tests.
Okay, in that case, can we add language to make the distinction between people who were elected in an election like right now, or
It's
people like in my case who were
It's in the
elected by
training. It's in the training information, you know.
Okay.
When we get to the training stuff, I can show you that.
Right.
that
Okay.
information.
But I think 60 days sounds reasonable enough where we can make it something that we could base a removal on, but we really will have to look at our bylaws because the bylaws may limit us on easy removals. You know,
Yes.
absences are in, but I'm not sure training.
As it should.
Yeah. So,
We're not in a hurry to kick people off.
all right, you guys, it's 8:05 and
I'm
we've
ready.
only gotten to the first agenda item.
I'm ready. May I
So-
share?
And I don't know how I feel about the digital law, the digital rule. So I just wanted to mention that as well. I just feel it's too
Well,
complex.
I understand, and like I said, we maybe just be given language from the city attorney anyway. This is something they're working on. So my stab at it may be an incorrect stab, as it were, because they're already coming up with stuff and they're trying to coordinate it. I mean, they already had actually come up with language, but the change to the Brown Act interrupted it, and they're now back trying to figure it out again because it's a combination of Brown Act violations and ethics violations versus the First Amendment.
Madam President, may I
But
move?
we must move on.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, we've moved on.
Okay, all right, so board members, this is the draft of the administrative package and budget draft. I want to stress that this needs to be submitted by June the 30th for us to have our money for July the 1st. If we don't meet that deadline, then we will only have $333 to spend a month. So I really want to stress that it's important for us to have that another governing board meeting. What's the date for that special call meeting?
29.
Oh my,
But
way to
we're gonna
give,
we're gonna approve it on the 29th.
way to
We're
give me some
gonna
time.
approve it.
Okay, all right, so here we go. So, okay, come. All right, so a lot of it's just boilerplate template, filling in the blank items. So let me just go down. All right, so it's Greg Jackson, yours truly will be the treasurer. The second signer, Hugo, if he so desires, I'm assuming Hugo, you still will be the second signer for the BACs. Okay, and then the alternative signer would be Laura, if she so desires to continue, and I believe both of you will wish to still continue to be the signers for the BACs. And then the bank card holder, Hugo will still remain as the first bank card holder. And then Laura will be the second card holder, correct?
Correct.
Both of you, okay.
That
Hugo,
is
yes?
correct. I'm number 2.
Yes. Hugo, yes? Helicopter swim, so yes, Hugo?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's that. So that's that part. So then, and so that's, but see, then you have to sign for the card in 2 places. So I don't know why that's the case, but that's the way the paperwork is set up. And then we come down to the budget. This is a sample of our budget. Based upon input that
Okay, Greg, you're
Yeah.
not posting the one I filled out.
this is
Not the one that I filled out, updated on the back, because I know that. Look at the top. See, it still says 32,000 is the name of our neighborhood council.
okay.
That 32,000 goes under annual budget funds. So
Yes, it does. That's a
yeah, I
typo.
know.
Okay.
So that's okay. I'm just gonna
Why would
inform
you-
everyone. I filled out the last 2 pages about meeting location and stuff like that. So this is still a good draft,
Okay, so you gave me some more pages.
but
Okay.
we'll
all right.
we'll combine the 2
Okay.
before the 29th.
Okay, so the audio visual that we may have a need for some audio visual stuff. That's based upon the funds that we have. I put $765, and this is different than the budget that we approved at our last meeting. At our last meeting, we approved the annual budget, but this is different. So we need to vote on this, and we need to vote on the annual budget on the meeting on the 29th. Okay, copying is the same, training board retreats the same, facility rental governing board meeting refreshment. I don't think we really have that. Office equipment supplies, postal supplies, temporary staff, phone system, web maintenance, enhancement creation, and there's a breakdown of that in the budget sheet. Business cards, we didn't spend that last year. We may not spend it this year either. Miscellaneous expenses is where we parked money in the past, but we don't have a lot of money to park, so that's amount is blank. That gives us 1,700 in the office operation category. The next category is advertising, bags, pens, magnets. That's to get the word out. And then money for different events. We have $5,000 for that. That is also pending. Well, we're supposed to be in the clear and we can gather. So supposedly we will actually have events. We don't have any money set aside for a newsletter. That's a physical snail mail newsletter because we do all things social media and digital on our website, but that may be something that we may want to consider in the future. But for outreach, we have $6,000 there. Election outreach, there's no funds on that because there's no election. And then neighborhood purpose grant, again, these are placeholders. This can change. Dynasty Youth Foundation, that's a tutoring program that we supported. Friends of Williams Grant Still, that's another organization we supported in the past. Friends of Jefferson Library, that's something we supported in the past. Yo Peace organization we supported in the past. And then a new request, a placeholder for any new requests. We don't have a lot of monies set aside there. Last year, due to COVID, we placed a majority of our funds. We ended up placing the majority of our funds here. This is $3,000 total. One of our major themes is to give money away. I want to note that for going back up, we have 17K for operations and that's web page maintenance also. We have 6,000 for outreach and then 3,000, as we just shared, for giving money to different organizations for neighborhood purpose grants. And then as placeholders for community improvement projects, again, placeholders for $3,000 for neighborhood specific projects. That is for the different block clubs that want to do work in their neighborhood and UNNC supporting them. We talked about the school projects in the budget we proposed earlier. There was comments on that. My only comment on that is that we're using this, my thinking and having this money set aside is that's, even though it's not a lot of money, it's still a way of contacting the schools and letting the schools know that we exist and that we want them to let them know that we're there to support them and also for them to become also involved in the larger community. But that's a major, I believe, a major area of outreach to reach to the schools. And so this is our annual roll up of a summary of those different categories, and that's 32K. Again, that does not count any rollover. Excuse me, hopefully I'm not making you dizzy when I do this, but
Okay,
if
Greg,
we have any,
should I share the screen for pages, the
Yeah,
last two
well,
pages?
I have some more on down there also. So we may get some rollover here. So let me go down to the bottom. Yes, as soon as I get through with the next page. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me share. Why don't you unshare and I'll share those two pages.
Well, hold on. Let me finish this. So we have public storage. And do you put that on your sheet?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I thought, yeah, let
Okay.
me just share those two pages.
Okay. All righty.
So that we can essentially say that we really saw the whole darn thing.
Okay.
So, because we need to make a motion to move this forward. So, so this would be page 11 of 12. So we don't have an office location. So I've checked off not applicable. Meeting location. And just by the way, Governor Newsom signed new orders that basically opened up business, but retained the COVID emergency orders for the Brown Act. So the Brown Act remains suspended till September 30th. And virtual governance can continue throughout the state until September 30th. So I wrote here tentatively, begin October 2021. So I don't know, things are going to keep changing, but that's it right now.
Okay.
And then public storage is existing. And then we filled in this last page with existing agreements. We will need to I will need to create an addendum page for other meeting locations, and I'm going to work real fast to see, are the libraries going to be available? Yes or no? Is South Seas House going to be available? Yes or no? And just try and put a sheet with other meeting locations, because there is somewhere in here that indicates if there's other locations, you may need an additional sheet. I don't know where it is. Right. If you have more than one meeting location, then please provide the same information on an additional page. So this is our admin packet, proposed draft. And I'm gonna stop the share.
Okay, so again, my concern is that if we're having a meeting on the 29th,
I can't hear you.
if we're having a meeting on the 29th,
Yes.
I have to submit this on the 30th. So there's no
Wiggle room on
wiggle
signatures.
room. So it's like,
Right.
on that night when we finish, I need Hugo and Laura, I need you to sign it, because in the morning,
Right.
or if I
Right.
go to bed that night, I need to submit this, because I would hate for us not to have any money.
Right. So
Okay.
can you ask Shauna, that was why I was wondering, if we're allowed to pre-sign before the board has approved, then let's do it.
No,
It does sound
um,
weird. I mean, I think the board needs to approve us.
well,
No, I think you can sign ahead of time. It's just you cannot release the signatures until the board has approved the document.
Right, but we sign
So you
on
can-
the document.
Yes, but to the extent that there are no changes, you can sign it, and then, because that's what we do for other legal documents. We just hold the signatures until the documents are final and approved.
that way I would have it in hand to execute.
Mhm.
That
Well,
makes
it
sense.
would be better for us to not make Greg have to pull an all-nighter, or Hugo or me for that matter.
Oh, that's exactly right. I don't think it, especially if the meeting goes as long as they typically
Oh,
do.
I
it's
hope
not-
not. I so hope not.
I was saying I'm gonna leave tonight early.
Okay,
Okay.
and just also by way of explanation, the reason we're sticking to the three of us is also we're the only three people who are actually trained as financial officers. So, and what we learned last year is if at the retreat we vote for a new signatory or a new treasurer, we would want to make those votes, want to date them forward 45 days so that the people have the time to take the training, because otherwise we don't have those offices filled. The bank card holder piece of this that Hugo and I are, we don't have to be officers on the executive committee to continue to be financial officers for the cards. But our bylaws have the signatory sits, the signatories have to be on executive committee. So it's a little complicated. So for now, we're just saying the three of us we're the only trained people anyway. So we just have to stay. Yes.
Okay. So the other document which is contained in this is the budget. So I need to show the document that has the budget on it, which you've already seen, but
Right.
I want you to see the document. I'm gonna share that also. Okay.
Can we
so-
see it fast?
Why? No,
Well,
of course
why?
not.
Because it's so interesting, Greg.
No, of course not. Okay, so, all right, so this, again, as I shared earlier, we approved the budget for next year in our last meeting, but there are revisions to it. So tonight, we need to approve this budget and we need to approve the administrative package. So all you will see here is just the 450 for postage. I had 400 in that, increased that. I added some money for audio visual. I took the money out of I mentioned this, that, I had money in here for election, that we could take it out. but it's actually taken out now, but it's still the same budget. We can change it, but Madam President, can we try to make two separate motions, or can we make it all in one motion?
I think for our purposes, it's approve the 2021 for this body is approve the 2021-2022 administrative
Let's say
packet
package,
and
right.
draft budget. I think a single motion is fine. I suspect we need two motions on the 29th.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the
Okay, so
2021-22 administrative package to include the budget.
sorry, I can again barely hear you, but I think you're saying what I'm writing. So hang on a second.
Laura, is it actually to approve or to approve to recommend these documents?
Oh.
to-
Move to recommend to the governing board that in reverse order, in other words. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, I'm stopped.
I
Sure.
second. Nancy seconds.
So it's moved by Greg, seconded by
Nancy.
Nancy. And for in terms of our conversation, we know we're merging those two sets of pages together into one. Right. So but we saw all the pages. So all in favor, just say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, it's passed. All right, the next item is, I'm gonna make this 1 minute, I hope. And we have an issue with our inventory. I've discussed it briefly with Dunn. They are not requiring that we turn in the inventory yet, but the problem is we don't have almost anything that's in the inventory anymore. So this is what our inventory looks like. And you'll start seeing that phrase, storage, 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 storage. That was the firehouse on Washington Boulevard. And almost all of this is gone, just completely gone. And then some of it may be in our possession. So like, Greg, do you have the Case Logic laptop attaché? Do we have that anywhere, for example?
Have a laptop.
Yeah, so these may or may not be those same things. So my point is sharing this. On the good news side, they are not making us add the inventory to the administrative packet. Some years they do. They are not going to. On the negative side, much of our actual owned inventory is no more, and we're going to have to figure out what to say about that. And that truly is all I want to address here tonight. There was, I mean, there's a long story, but the short story is there's a new operator. It happened in COVID. We met him at our governing board meeting. The roof leaked, stuff got moldy all throughout the upper floors. They threw everything out, broke down the door of our space, and how an oak desk got moldy, I don't know, but I didn't even know we owned an oak desk. So this is something I'm going to continue to pursue, but let's move on, unless anybody has any questions. Okay, not. And then governing board retreat in July.
Yes. So
Excuse me.
I sent an email to Rahim. Oh, Greg?
I'm listening. Greg's talking, but I don't see him anymore.
Laura, can you mute Greg?
What? I had to move my dog.
Okay, yeah, but we can hear you dealing with the dog.
Yeah, I had to move my dog.
Okay, Nancy, go ahead.
So I sent an initial agenda to Rahim and Paula, who volunteered to be part of the retreat ad hoc committee. We still haven't met, but we're hoping to meet at some point this week.
Okay.
So that's an update on the agenda. I guess my question is, do we need the agenda to be approved by anyone?
Yeah,
My goal
I
is to make it
think we would,
forward.
yes, I think essentially it's a public meeting and there will have to be a little bit of board meeting component to it. So whenever you come up with the agenda, just be sure you add 20 minutes for board meeting, because we need to select officers. We may need to approve a monthly expenditure report. I mean, it's really minor, but because that will be a component, it would need to be approved by executive committee.
Okay, so I'll add the election of officers.
Right.
And then
We may or may not need to do a monthly expenditure report.
yeah,
In fact,
if we
yeah.
could leave that till later, that would be great. I just want to spend more time getting to know each other and then
Exactly.
really doing the presentation backgrounds on the bylaws and the standing rules and
Absolutely.
everything.
You know, I mean, you guys are, I mean, this is a retreat. Just know that whether, and I don't know yet if it can be in physical proximity or if we're doing it on Zoom.
Yeah.
And you guys maybe want to make a recommendation about that too, because meaning even if we can do it in a physical space, which we don't have, you may not wish to. So you guys will want to make that recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing is on the election of officers. I recall that last year when we went through the election of officers, a lot of people had questions as to what each position does. And while there is a general summary in the bylaws, like it doesn't capture the day-to-day responsibilities.
No, it does not.
Everyone does. So one, I haven't discussed this with Rahim, and I mentioned it to Rahim and Paula in my email, but if everyone could just prepare, a short summary of, or not even short, but just a bullet point list of what their responsibilities are so that we could share it with everyone.
Right.
Ahead of time so that we don't spend time during the retreat unless there are specific questions as to what does the secretary do, especially for my position, what does the vice president do, etc. Like these positions that that people may not know what the day-to-day is.
Right, and then some of what Greg and I are doing respectively are not necessarily treasurer or president tasks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the training administration that Greg's doing could be any executive committee member. The administering the committees that I'm doing could be doesn't have to be the president. So we should.
So yeah, maybe distinguishing between the responsibilities that you do have to do in that role and then the responsibilities that you've taken on because, there hasn't been anyone else to do that. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The last item is that I know you have on the agenda is the dates. So I think we're aiming for a Saturday.
Right.
Laura, I don't know if you want to I know you said you were already drafting an email to ask for a proposed date.
Yeah, that should be on it. I hadn't. Yeah, when you say already, I mean, I've said words out loud and discussed it with Lizzie, but I haven't actually drafted anything yet. So I'm writing down now, add question about Saturdays in July, right?
Yes.
And then are you guys aiming towards morning or afternoon? Or is that another question?
Yeah, that's another question.
Yeah. And I will say, if we find out that the training cornerstone links are being given to everybody by Friday of this week, that changes whether or not we should have an early July versus late July thing. I mean, in other words, I'd like to have most people trained as well, don't you think? So I would not, obviously, we're not going to do it July 3rd. It's a holiday weekend. But I think it'd be better 17, 24, 31, my opinion. But let's see what everybody's schedule is. Because it'd be really good if they've taken their training. On the other hand, the retreat could be a place where we explain why they have to take their training.
Mhm. Well, which training do they have to take to be able to vote?
They have to have taken the code of conduct according to Dunn, but as we're looking at the standing rules, they also would have had to take their ethics.
Okay.
Even in the existing standing rules, not the revised. We've not been enforcing that. Is that correct, Greg? We're letting people who are delinquent
Yeah.
on ethics vote anyway,
Yes.
but
Let them vote.
but our standing rules say they can't.
Well,
Okay.
tighten up this ship right here. Tighten it up.
Well, I mean, no, I'm not trying to make people not vote. I'm trying to make people be able to vote, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
my goal is that they can vote, not that they can't. But our standing rules, existing standing rules say must take ethics in order to vote, must take funding to vote on money, and must take ethics to vote at all.
Right.
So-
And then the city has something different. So
The city
Wait.
does say something different.
right. And when we get to the training report, I'll
Okay.
flash that in front of us. But Madam President, we have a concern that we do need to approve the MERS for
Okay, I'm so
before
sorry. I'm
she
really
leaves.
having trouble hearing tonight. It might be the
I just
microphone
want to
on
make
the
sure
computer.
that we finish voting on the treasury report is near the end, and I'm just concerned that we might
Okay.
lose quorum.
All right, so anyway, Nancy, I don't think we need to approve the retreat portion of the agenda. Oh, this might be my computer, I told you. It might not be. I saw the chat, Hugo. It may be my computer and not Greg.
Yes, I don't think there's anything to approve yet, but
Yeah,
we will send the agenda to executive committee for
Okay.
approval.
right.
Um,
We're trying to like give freedom to have a great retreat. But by the way, it's not going to happen. I also priced individual small champagne splits to see if I could just buy them for June 29th and deliver one to everybody's door for toasting our leaving board members. I can't afford it though, as it turns out. It's very expensive. But as friendly and fun as this retreat could be, minus champagne, that's the better thing. You get to know each other. Okay. We don't really, next item is the update regarding the handbook. We don't really need to have a long discussion about this, Greg, because it's nothing we're voting on.
Yeah, okay. We're working on
Working on it's just fine.
Yeah,
That-
working
'cause
on
I-
it just fine. 'cause
Working on
it's-
it's just fine. So I know you are.
Right.
Greg,
Okay.
do you think we'll have at least a version of it in time for the retreat whenever that
If
is
it's
in July?
mid-July, yes.
Okay.
If it's next week, no. So yes,
Right.
Yes, so
Yes.
hopefully, yes.
yes.
Even if all, I
It
would
will
think
be-
just,
It would be soft, wet ink draft.
Right.
yeah, just so long as they have the copies of the bylaws, the
Right.
standing rules. Yeah, that would,
Yeah.
I mean, just those
Right.
basic documents. would be
Yeah,
great.
it's just a little complicated, Nancy. Like I realized after it's like, hey, how are you doing on it? I realized, well, John and I haven't looked at our part yet to
Yeah.
update Planning 101. It's way out of date too. So we're all just gonna have to hunker down and have a
then-
lovely 4-day weekend for July 4th and get it done.
Yeah. And then some of the information that we want to include is dependent on COVID policy and whether there's any revisions to Brown Act or meeting guidelines.
I actually I got the Brown Act change. I actually have it. I haven't sent it to you. I did find it.
Okay. And what the
But it
city
doesn't
is thinking.
involve virtual meetings yet. They're still working on that.
Yeah,
Anyway, Nancy, the answer is we're trying our best. Everybody's trying their best. Everyone except for Dunn is trying their best. Dunn's not helping us. Okay, mid-city cookouts. I know you guys have been here patiently. Judy Gallegos.
we have guests.
Hello, we're
Hey.
here.
We had
Hi,
guests
Lauren.
Hi
and
Nice
we
to
there.
made
meet you.
supper. That is so mean of us. We
It's
apologize.
perfectly fine. It reminded me
No,
of
it's
work,
not.
which
No
I don't
way.
know if I don't know if
That's
I
not nice.
appreciate it or not. But thank you so much for having us on, and we're glad to present the work that we that our folks are doing and what our hopes are. And I was glad to hear Greg talk about the budget and potentially allowing for some money to come our way. And I think Manny was still here, hopefully. He'll talk more about the
Yes.
project, what he's worked on alongside Marta Gomez, who's also here, Ruben and Mayra, who are part and have been actively working on the project for a couple of weeks. A couple months. I've jumped on more recently, and thank you, Laura, for connecting with me. You've been extraordinarily helpful.
Oh yeah, because I made you sit through an hour and a half of this.
And all your
There you go.
emails, but I appreciate you, and I'll let Manny jump in and give you a background on the community cookouts and kind of where we're at and what we want to go, do moving forward. So go ahead, Manny.
And Manny, you're mute. Oh, there you go.
Hi everyone, I'm Manny. I'm here. I'm a business owner here in Mid City in Arlington Heights. I'm the owner of Yahyarar. It's a Oaxacan store primarily, and so we started the Mid Community Cookouts in December. It was actually someone who I got connected with through the LA Community Fridge that we host. So the fridge is accessible at 24 hours a day outside of our shop, and donations come from organizations, from individuals, from neighbors. So the fridge is a sort of an access to create food justice in our neighborhood. So it was introduced to us. It was a beautiful concept. It was about giving away food to the community, but with a bigger purpose. It was really a way of creating the concept of a cookout, but being able to show neighbors that we care about one another. So it was really our duty to support street vendors in Mid-City, as well as create, this meal, something that we would cherish, and also to show like how we can congregate, sort of show that we care each other as neighbors, because the pandemic was very isolating and scary. So it's been now 13 weeks that we've had the cookouts, and in it we've sort of started this initiative of hiring a street vendor. So what we do around Mid-Cities, we actually talk to the street vendors. We propose the idea of them giving us an estimate for us to give away 100 plates of their food. And we have been doing this for 13 weeks. So we've gotten to meet a lot of our direct neighbors, but as well as some of our neighbors that are out, sometimes even selling 7 days a week, more than 8 hours a day, and have been providing sort of food in the community. So with this idea, we've sort of been thinking about hosting a block party, and the block party would sort of it would function as a way to be able to give back to the community at large. So what we would want to do is hire more than one street vendor. We usually do like 1 or 2 street vendors, but now hire maybe 5 to 10 street vendors throughout the day, being able to close off the street, have the community congregate, and really meet the people that are sort of keeping the neighborhood alive through all of the food justice work that's been happening. And then there's also other members here in the call, so you're also welcome to introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about the project.
Okay, so I don't know who would want to go first. Martha, Myra, anybody? I think they're not wanting, You can unmute yourselves. This is a,
Oh, are you
there
able
we
to hear
go.
me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so good evening, everyone. Yes, so my name is Myra, and I'm also part of the Mid City Cookouts representation of a vendor as well. So we usually serve as well Oaxacan products. So as we came a part of this new project,
Oh, you went mute. Can you unmute yourself again, Myra? Okay.
Hear you.
Yeah, Myra, you're still muted.
Can you unmute her, Laura?
I'm trying. I can ask her to unmute, but I can't do it for her.
That's too bad. Maybe disconnect your headset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, while Myra's working on that, Martha, did you have something to say?
Yeah, so I'm a volunteer over at Mid City Community Cookouts. So I've been supporting the cause, and I strongly believe in it. Like Manny said, you know, the pandemic was very scary, and this, you know, the community cookouts really allowed us to congregate in a time where we really needed support from each other, especially during the pandemic when things were really scary. And again, this allowed us to come together as a community and to really take care of each other, especially when, you know, food was a little bit out of the question, especially when jobs weren't really available. So yeah, during the community cookouts, we realized that it would be a great idea to have a block party to really celebrate and bring all of the vendors. Myra is one of the vendors. She was actually one of the first ones that helped get everything started, and she's also a returning vendor. So we would like to hire her as well as the other vendors to be a part of this block party, and we would want to make it very community oriented. And we also would like to, you know, close one or two of the streets to be able to allow the community to come be a part of it. Yeah, and as a volunteer, I really see the value of this. I'm an LA native, and I feel like it's very important for us as a community to come together in times of need. So we would really appreciate your support in making this a reality.
So can I ask, does it, in your visioning on this, this is to continue to be regular, but close the streets regularly? Or one big event?
Yeah, just the block party would be one big event, which would allow us to hire a lot of the street vendors that have been a part of this project, so that the community can, you know, come and be a part of it. And also as a thank you to the community for allowing us to do this, because we've received a lot of support from community partners, from the neighbors, and we can see the need for this. So we would really like to celebrate the community and honor them, and honor the vendors who have been a part of this as well.
I know.
And just so you know, Laura, we are working on coming up with a date, but we're looking at August or September.
Yeah, so Greg's gonna probably have a lot of stuff to say about this, and Hugo has his hand raised. For us to support an event, any kind of event, any event, anywhere, we are required to have a minimum of 60 days, but to turn in a request for funding to the city clerk, a minimum of 60 days. And I think you can tell by some of our discussion, it's unlikely we would ever even be able to vote on this until our August board meeting, which is August 5. You know, so that pushes out, would have to push out your date. If it's even approvable, and then there's a lot of other things that would have to happen. Greg, did you want to jump in? Because I know you're going to say stuff.
Yeah, I have stuff. Okay, so.
And then I know Hugo has your hand up, but let Greg talk.
Okay, so you've already answered the first question of when, the window. Then my second question is where do you have in mind to do this? You don't have to answer this question now, but these are things that we want to know where. And then the third question is, what is the budget that you have for this project? To include what portion are you seeking from us? I mean, you could ask us for $1 million. It's not going to happen, but you could ask for $1 million, So what is your overall budget? And then when you're ready to get started, then I need to work with your point person of the tedious task of going through the city paperwork of, okay, so this is what we need. And then, I'll send you the forms, and this will be dialogue back and forth of what we need to have that. And that includes insurance and business license and all that good stuff. So, so I will need a point of contact to work with on the overall scheme of things. And it will be like, okay, today we did this, next week we did that. Then we also need to be aware of what the city is saying related to, COVID issues, if it's all opened up now, and if we can do this, because that's still a pending issue for us, even though the day is the day that we're fully open. But those are all the things that we need to do. So saying that you want to do this a few months ahead of time from now is a good thing, because it gives us time to work out the details. And then also, with the mission of this, you're saying it's giving back to the community. So we need to talk about that some more. Like, is you're giving back to the community by feeding the community, reaching out to the homeless, and then this may be self-serving, but there's the UNNC PR aspect of, now that we're partnering with you to fund this, it's like, are we putting out the word about how we're supporting the community also? Like, will we have a booth there or table there and information? Are there's, would we include, not that I want to expand your project, but would you include like other people that have passed out health information and all that good stuff? And then when you say vendors, what are you selling? Is it food, or is it clothing also? Those are things that will be discussed. And then the city will probably be concerned about, like, it's, you have vendors, but are the vendors serving, giving, or the vendors making money? And that's something that we will need to discuss, but not now, but those are just part of the conversation. And
Right.
I will work with you and walk with you through that process. It's lots of
Yeah. Looking forward to all the nitty gritty. And I, appreciate you saying all this. I think we all had a different idea of how this might go down, and this is very helpful. So what do you suggest the next steps are? Should I reach out to you
let me see what
directly, or?
Hugo and Nancy
Oh, sure.
say. And Hugo, noting that it's 8:51, you're before Nancy, but Nancy has to leave at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Nancy, you can ask first. I don't want to keep you waiting. Oh,
No, she's
okay.
saying you go ahead, but we all want to leave at 9 o'clock, so don't take 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
And I have a merge report we need to approve.
Yeah, I took some notes while we were talking. It's not going to format well. I'm just going to send it anyways. But these are some questions that I was thinking of, like right off the bat. And I just want to say thank you all for coming to this meeting and talking about this stuff. I'm one of the co-chairs of economic development, and one of the things that I've been trying to do is to emphasize the Oaxacan businesses in our area. And then I've also done outreach to a lot of vendors. So I had some questions with that, and I think it might be more appropriate to discuss that offline when we have more time, because obviously our time is limited today. But yeah, I also have a lot of questions about it. And I just wanted to throw that out there that I would like to discuss this in more detail and ask questions as to where it's going to happen, where it's happened before. This is my first time hearing about your organization, and so I'd like to stay in touch.
Right. Is it Pico and Fifth Avenue, Judy?
Yeah,
Right.
it's
On
in
the
that corner.
south side of Pico, Fifth Ave. What, by the Johns, right? By this grocery store, a little east of that. Is that right?
Oh, west.
Jay's Market.
Jay's, but it's one block east of that.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that, Ugo. And if you want to put your email on or your phone number on the chat, we'll glad to reach out to you too.
Right. And I can also connect you all by email.
Great,
Nancy.
thank you.
Great. So just one suggestion, because it is going to be on Pico and Fifth, you kind of straddle two neighborhood councils.
Right.
So maybe
Mm.
as part, you should also go to the other neighborhood councils, since you're probably going to service both areas. And I think that will probably help the application if you have another neighborhood council also supporting your event. And then I'm sure Greg will do this, but there is the paperwork that needs to be filled out, and a copy is available on our website. And then Manny, I've been wanting to visit your flower shop for a while. So I'm so happy that you guys heard about us and came. We're very excited. I think the block party sounds like a great event. And so I hope that, that you're able to work with Greg to submit your paperwork, and we can hear more about it at our governing board meeting.
Right. And I also think, Greg, if I'm not mistaken, each vendor would also have to have insurance, right? Have to show.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
That's a hassle.
So you might find that some of your favorite vendors who wanted to invite you may not be able to, because they would have to have insurance and show a certificate of insurance and be able to work with their insurance agent to add the city of Los Angeles as an also insured onto their insurance certificate for the day. And
Oh, I
and
imagine,
it's a horrible requirement, but that's what the city's been doing now for a couple of years. So we have ourselves, when we've had events, had to switch sometimes food vendors because they couldn't do it. So on the other hand, it might help you narrow down who's invited to this particular one.
Right.
And is there another really good thing to think about in very quick order? If there is a nonprofit 501c3 charitable organization that you could be partnering with on the event, that might make it easier. Not necessarily, I mean, it might not be an MPG, right, Greg? But it still might be easier for money to flow to. What do you think? I'm making this up now. I don't know.
Well, let's not do that.
Let's not make things up.
Let's not get into the weeds. We just need to do an overview for now. And then when we'll talk to them, we'll talk about events.
Right.
Because I want to talk to Shauna about a few other things that we're going forward. So we have the overview, and I think that's sufficient for now.
So yeah, definitely. We appreciate the time for the introduction. You gave us a lot to think about and go back and discuss with our committee and kind of plan out things in more detail. And knowing the timeline is helpful so that we can, maybe decide to push back the date just to give us more time. But I appreciate your time and your contact information, and I'll be in contact with Ugo, with Laura, with Gregory, and Nancy, and move forward from here.
Right. Let me just ask Hugo. I was not paying full attention at Economic Development Committee. Did you guys set a monthly date? Are you going to have another meeting?
Not yet. I need to get in contact with Chris because I don't think she's going to be available next month or the one after. But I'm still planning on organizing another meeting. And I actually wanted to say to this group, one of the things that I was discussing with Chris that we could potentially do, and I've told the whole board about this, is potentially doing a walk on Washington event but on Pico, Venice. My goal is to do it
Right.
as many streets as possible.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
it's very similar to. I've also had the goal of doing some kind of block party, but COVID kind of dampened that. And so I think this is just everything is just coming together perfectly. So I don't know.
Well,
Laura.
now we're
what you
just
might think,
brainstorming,
but
which we should.
I think it fits in.
But we can always
Okay.
collaborate and make this a bigger event,
Well,
that's a little bit beyond us.
brainstorming, and we shouldn't, but I'm going to encourage Hugo that you just set another economic development committee meeting and bring them into that, because that's a perfect place to brainstorm this further.
Yep.
Do that.
If you can,
Will
if you
do.
can.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
we'll be in contact, Hugo. Thank you so much for the feedback, everybody. And we'll be in contact. We appreciate your time today, and good luck on the next couple of votes.
And we're sorry we kept you here so long. We
That's
apologize.
okay.
And keep coming to, the more people who participate in UNC. You have one other thing, which is if you're going to close the street, we need to work with your field deputy from CD10, Danielle Merrow, I think is who it is. But, again, because the council office will need to be very involved in the closing of the
Right.
store.
Yeah, I reached out to them at the same time I reached out to you. Haven't heard back. So I'm going to round back to them again
Right.
and see what's going on. But
Okay.
this was very helpful. Appreciate your time and
Okay.
have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Okay. And Nancy has to leave.
Let's vote on the MERS.
So what we still have on the
Hey,
agenda
buddies. Hey,
is
buddies.
training. Okay, gang.
Let's
We
do
have
the money.
training review, which I don't know how fast you want to be. Setting the board meeting agenda items. There are no committee reports. There's nobody here. There's no secretary's report. She's not here. And I think we've already seen our financial update. Is that right, Greg?
No. I need to
You
check
have
the
not?
MERS.
Okay,
No.
poor Nancy's gonna have to leave, but
No. Give me a minute.
let's
Give me a
do
minute.
the training real quick and the board
No,
meeting agenda
let's do
items.
the money. Let's do the money. Let's do the
Okay.
money. I mean, she's
Wait.
vote on that. Okay, hold on. I'm
Well,
coming, Nancy.
Are you
I'm coming.
comfortable with Hugo and I doing the board meeting agenda? Because we both have little items and then there's nothing. Go ahead. What are you doing first, Greg?
I'm doing MERS.
Oh,
Here, can you see?
got it.
Okay, so this is, I would request approval of the monthly expenditure report for the month of May. That show that we spent $587.25
Ugh.
in May. I don't know what to say about it. It's just, this is what we spent in the month of May. And so these are things that are still pending. Outstanding expenditures. So yeah, we got $4,000 that went to that, all the High State Police Association. So this money is what we spent. In May, it was still, the checks were written in, but they've been cashed since then. So I make a motion, we approve the May month, move it forward. We don't really have to move it forward.
Well,
to
are
the-
we approving it or moving it forward to governing board?
Well, really, we just move it forward. I mean,
Do we need to really vote?
not really. I'm sorry, I got all excited.
Yeah, I know. All excited, but we're at
We need
executive.
to know.
We're at executive.
Okay, bye. All right, that's
Okay,
it.
fine. So with training, I think Paula and I are pending expiration, right?
Okay, let me go to training then. Training,
Bye, Nancy.
bye Nancy, we're gonna miss you. Okay, okay, so with training, we should all leave at 9. We should all say, we're not gonna talk so much so we can get out at 9. Okay, so this is, it's color coded and it's in alphabetical order by last name. Can anybody see this?
Yeah,
So we can see color coded means that you're already expired. So let me go down to Laura.
yes, there I am.
So there you are. So your stuff
Yeah,
is.
no, I gotta take my training.
it's coming up next month.
Yep.
So I guess I can make it really yellow, but. So yeah, so what I'll do this next week is send everyone that's, well, not Tori, I need to send Chris.
Okay, so you see how you have Chris, you don't even have a red mark on her ethics? Can I tell
Yeah.
you, Chris and I both took the ethics training on 4th of July weekend 2 years ago. Hers obviously blew up, but she needs a red. She will expire under any circumstance July 1.
Yeah.
So
well,
she
see,
needs to be told she has to take it
Yeah,
along with funding because I know, because we both I mean, the problem is that we went to the July board meeting, each of us, July of 2019, with having taken the thing and hers all blew up and mine didn't. So I'm confident of my date. Because
Okay.
so she can't do this any longer. She has to go
Yeah.
into training.
Right.
So
I think
it's
she-
okay
I
with
think-
me if you put a big red mark in her block, in that block, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Okay.
However you do it. Yay. And Tori is obviously not gonna, she's not returning
Yeah,
to the
she's won't
board.
be here anymore.
So it won't matter. I don't know that you need to,
Yeah, I won't, Bob. So anyone that's leaving,
I'm
Mario's leaving, right?
correct.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. Like Carlos, and we talked to Carlos.
He's got, I mean, again, this is to Hugo's point, there comes a point where you can't keep doing this.
Well, yeah, and in his case, it's like if he doesn't, then one of the things that we need to discuss with the standing rules is that, you know, you will be removed, you know, so.
Right. Well, that's right. Okay. And then,
That's
so
it.
in terms of people who are pending expiration, that's going to be Isaac shortly, Raheem on the code of Raheem needs to get an email real soon about code of conduct.
Yeah, everybody will. Everybody that's here, let me sort it by.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we've all seen the boxes, and there's
Right.
essentially all of those of us who were re-elected 2 years ago are going to all be expiring really shortly on stuff. Is the kind of the big point.
Right. Right. So yeah, there you go. All right, well, that's it. So yeah, you get email, Raheem, Isaac.
Right, and you do know that I have mentioned to Gibson, but I guess I need to mention to somebody else more than once that I can't do my training until somebody gives me Cornerstone login.
But yeah, but Kyle does that. I mean,
All right, so I'll email Kyle.
But no,
I
he
will.
does it. He does it. So Kyle.
Well, he hasn't. But that's okay.
Okay, but he doesn't.
I know it's probably on my end. We don't need to belabor it. I'm aware I need to do it.
Okay. You'll get it. Kyle will send you stuff. I will CC Kyle so he will be in the loop on everybody's stuff.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop sharing. Did I stop sharing that? Yep. Okay, that's it. What else?
Okay, the agenda items. I'm scribbling them. I'm scribbling them where you can't see me, but I have a pen in my hand. Okay, I've been trying to limit the agenda items on this meeting that's coming up on June 29 because I really, really would like it not just to be short, and this time it's not a joke, but I'd like to celebrate and say nice things and say goodbye to the board members who are departing. And what I've learned on the city level is that they're still doing the pretty calligraphy certificates, but obviously we're not going to be in a room together. I'm not handing them out to people. So we'll just have them mailed to the home addresses of the departing board members. And Jeff is going to give me a sample that I'll just share the screen. Thank you. Thank you, board members. I won't have anybody's name. But I want to make sure we have the ability to thank them for their service. And that shouldn't be at 11 o'clock at night for obvious reasons. So my understanding of what we have to do on June 29th. We have to approve the monthly expenditure report. We have to approve the administrative packet and budget, right, Greg? From your
Right,
end.
and we may have the June 1 merge.
No, we won't
also.
have the June one.
No.
That, I
Oh.
don't think, I mean, we could because we're gonna stop spending. Remind me, is it today for the credit card or is it the 20th?
The
15th,
20th.
20th. But nonetheless, Hugo's gonna pay the public storage, or already did, right? Or
I already
tonight. He did
They
it.
did.
And I told Raheem not to spend any money on Facebook. So in theory, they could pre-issue our June monthly expenditure report, but I doubt they will.
Okay, well, if it's
You know, you could
there-
ask,
if
'cause we're
it's
not gonna be-
there- no, I don't know. I'll just wait to
Yeah,
see
you're
if it
right.
shows
So,
up.
but definitely we do the May. And
And I
the
need,
administrative packet, and I don't think
Yes.
we need to spend any time on reallocating budget matters. Will we know by then?
probably not.
No,
Nope.
I'm sorry, KYCC, they're absolutely positively gonna pay it out this season, right? This fiscal year.
What do you mean? Are they gonna get the money?
Meaning
gonna do?
KYCC is not rolling over. How are
No,
the,
no, it's not rolling over.
right? How are the other two without specifying any names, since I'm not allowed to discuss one of those two names? How are, we only have room to roll one over if
Well,
we have a problem.
Everyone's in conversation and everyone knows what they need and everyone's asking the same question over again. And everyone's saying they will get it and everyone it's
Okay,
it's
so,
all being worked.
okay.
That's not a guarantee that it's
I
gonna
know,
work.
I know that. I'm just saying my worry is only that we only have sufficient rollover funds for one,
Right,
not two. So,
right,
so KYCC has to go forward because it's encumbered.
right.
And then one of the other two, I hope all of it goes
Both of
forward, but
them,
we only have
both
room
of them
for
will
one.
work. Both of
Yeah.
them will work.
But we don't need to discuss it. Is that correct? I'm just trying to
We
figure out
don't need to
agenda.
discuss it. It's-
Fine, perfect.
Everything that can be done is being done.
So the standard, but I'm asking the standard item on the agenda where we reallocate the budget, we don't need to have that on the agenda at all.
No,
either.
we do not. We should not
Perfect.
do that.
Okay, so other than that, what we're gonna have on the agenda is the standing rules, and we'll limit it to 30 minutes. If we can't finish it, then it just gets put off, correct? Is that your idea? Not to
All
spend,
this standing, no, I just think it's a whole, what I would consider, yes, that would be nice. But it's a whole professional development issue. It really deserves, it can be presented and I guess we can vote on it, but I think it's more of a discussion during the seminar or the retreat
right.
that we really get into it. I don't think we should
I'm
try
just
to discuss
asking
it.
for the agenda, max it out at 30
Yes,
minutes.
30 minutes. Yes, here it is.
That's what I'm asking.
And
Okay.
are we saying that people need to vote on it?
Well,
Yes.
you know, for me, but that's because Nancy and I've been so knee deep in it. It may feel brand new to everybody, but it actually is just tweaks and a change of order, and the content and the items, they aren't different. They're just now accurate or flexible.
Right.
Having said that, I don't feel that everyone's going to feel that. You know, she and I have been like revise 1, revise 2, revise 3. Do you know what I mean? But we're not wholesale changing it. But that's only because it's only the two of us who've been working on it.
Right.
So we'll just see what happens. But I'm only asking for an agenda, maxing it out at 30.
30 minutes, presentation of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
You agree?
So
Hugo, you agree?
Hugo has something for the agenda and I have, sadly. I was trying to avoid doing planning and zoning, but I can't avoid it because we have two cases. One for sure has a hearing and one might have a hearing. So we're dealing with them tomorrow night. And we'll have to bring at least one of the two to the board on the 29th. So the one we have to bring is not controversial, thank God. But it's 1808 South St. Andrews. It's a 22 units of permanent supportive housing by a very well-known nonprofit housing developer, Clifford Beers, something, LLC, whatever. But they're retaining the historic house, rehabbing on the inside, adding units in it, and adding more units behind it. It's permanent supportive housing, all's good, but they will need a vote before mid-July. So that's why we have to do it. And it'll be a double vote on the project approval and also land entitlements. They're asking for us to approve for planning department the entitlements, and more broadly speaking, to write a letter of support of the project, because of course, if you know anything about the financing of these kind of things, they have to go out to a lot of different places for financing, and some of them require a letter of support from the community. So that one we have to do. We're also hearing tomorrow night Crenshaw Crossings, and weirdly enough, it says on the presentation file that they have a hearing on July 7th, but I'm not sure what the hearing is. I'm crossing fingers it's at Metro and we don't have to do anything, versus city, in which case we do. So I have those two items. And then Hugo, you got a community impact statement on the public bank, correct? If we can, if we can get through it.
Yeah, I emailed him before our meeting just to confirm. He was asking to do it in July. And so then that's when I asked he could do it June or in August, and he hasn't responded yet. So
Understood. So, but tentatively at the moment, Greg, for the three of us, tentatively, I've got it penciled for the June 29th agenda. And obviously for us, it'd be better if it was August 5. But if we missed all deadlines, we can't do that. I mean,
yeah, I asked him if it would be August 5, or if it would be past a deadline that they need to meet.
Right, exactly.
So I'm just waiting on that.
Okay.
Then I'll give it.
Well, those are the only agenda items I am aware of. And I'm not scheduling a presentation for the 6:30 to 7 piece either.
Good. Hey, are we sure people are going to come to this special meeting?
Well, we had enough for quorum already, but I will have to send another email because we're not having the meeting if there's not a quorum, obviously.
Well, for example, just now we said the meeting's going to be on the 29th.
It's Tuesday, the 29th is the date we agreed to.
Okay, but
Tuesday, the 29th, not Monday, the 28th.
We all need to be reminded of that because, I'm not saying now, I know it's the 29th.
I will have to send an email
a couple of times.
A couple of times. The only person who said they could not, well, obviously we had people in the room and we have people who were not in the room. Some of the people who were not in the room answered positively on Nancy's survey, but they were not in the room. Of the people who were in the room, John Arnold's a definite no. I'm trying to whine at him, WHINE. However, he's going to be in New Hampshire, so he's going to be on the East Coast and with friends and at a series of social events.
Good for him.
And so he's saying highly doubtful that he'd even call in because it'd be so late at night. And then Marielle, you heard her response. So I do have to reach out and see, but we did have sufficient people say yes. So, and if we can't have it, then we're not having another meeting and your MER does not get approved in a timely manner and we get a red mark.
And the budget doesn't get approved.
Huh?
And the budget for next year.
Oh, shit. So we have to have this meeting, but I want it not to be very long.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yes, I know. You're right.
That's my whole point.
Shoot. But that's right. But we had enough people say yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's the thing. So I can only rely on that and we can move forward.
All
but
right.
yes, we'll start sending out a lot of emails. How's that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to see if it's possible if we can ask everyone if they can confirm that they're going to be there and that it's really important.
Well, no, but Greg's point is this. we can't even wait till July 1. Even if we were at our regular meeting, we can't, that's still too late. We have to do it this month. So, so I'm counting on it being the 29th, not the 30th for the same reason, because that's kind of midnight oil on that admin packet.
Yeah, I need to submit it the 30th.
Right. Okay, well, all right, I'm putting this in orange. I'm highlighting email everyone meeting date. And but just showing you I am orange. Oh, you can't even see. It's too bright. See that? That's what I'm doing, my list. I know it's a reverse mirror. I'm doing it. I'm not doing it tonight, but I will do it in the morning. And I'm going to
Okay.
email all the brand new people, although they don't help us on quorum. All right. But this meeting, I mean, again, I want to make this as minimal as possible. And I'm hoping the whole Crenshaw Crossing thing is not going to happen. But we'll find that out tomorrow night. I am hoping that what they put on their presentation only means they have to go back to the Metro board on the 7th and not city, not their big project for city planning.
Okay.
Okay. Because I think it's easier to get everybody to agree to come. Now, who wants to yak with Gabby? Because she's obviously tired of coming to meetings. I will see her, see her on Thursday night, but she really doesn't want to keep coming to meetings, and I really want her to help us get quorum on the 29th. For example, because that was the other email I got. Do I really have to go? And I wrote back, yes, you do. But
I'll call her or email her or something.
Yeah, so tell her we won't bug her about minutes. We won't even have that on the
Oh.
agenda. We just want her presence, please.
Okay.
So that she can also get her, reward, recognition. That is what really, I really do want to spend some time saying thank you to our board, the board members who are leaving us.
Okay.
So I'm going to also talk to Marielle about that, because essentially what she was saying was, her kid will be out of school. And it's like, but we're still not going anywhere, I hope. I think
she said she would be there.
She said she would try, but I'm going to talk to her about trying really hard.
Okay.
So, okay.
Buenas noches.
So on our agenda, I think we're done because we kind of went out of order. Or do you want to? Did you have some math to show us still? No.
Nope.
We're good, right? You showed us the MER.
Yep.
We're good. We can end the meeting.
Yeah, Laura, just really quick question. With the paper earlier that Greg showed, I forget what's the name of it, but the 21 to 22
administrative packet.
Yeah, that one. With the location where we're going to be at, I saw that it was Gramercy Apartments.
Correct.
And so is that confirmed yet? Or,
yes.
Or what's?
Yeah. No, it's definitely confirmed.
Okay. How much is it going to be per month? Are we going to have to pay rent?
We're not paying a facility fee, but it will probably be called a facility fee because we'll have to pay for cleaning when we're done. So it'll be a facility fee, but it won't be a lot of money. But it's only for governing board. I mean, we have a real problem. If the committees have, now that we've activated so many committees and we don't have a council office to fall back on, is, I'm checking in with all the committee chairs this week because, like communications used to meet at the Underground Museum, for example. Will they still be able to do so? Planning and zoning and recreation and parks would meet at the South Seas House. Will they be able to do so? I hope so. But I don't think we can have more than 3 meetings a month at South Seas House. So what libraries might be available, but none of those facilities are big enough for a governing board. The governing board meeting, I've solved that problem. That meeting room holds 121 people. So that's sufficient, obviously, even if we still have social distancing, which we will probably. I mean, the biggest problem is that the city, and especially the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, remain very nervous about having neighborhood councils meet in person, but we're not going to be able to avoid it once the Brown Act is no longer suspended. And the way it looks like it's playing out in Sacramento is that they're working on legislation that will allow the public to continue to attend by Zoom or other virtual technology, but they're going to require that the legislative body, which meaning the governing board, be in person with a minimum of quorum. So that, in other words, we have a 23-member board, we have 13-person quorum. The legislation that's pending would require essentially that when we have our governing board meetings, the minimum number of people who are on the board physically present would be the same as quorum. And then other board members could be at home, the public could be at home or in the room. And then Dunn is saying that, but you'll still have to social distance, so you might have to turn some people away. And it's like, how would we be turning people away? We don't have security. So it's a conundrum. So the room that we have, there'll be plenty of parking. There's underground parking. It seats 121. In fact, it's a better space than the council office, because if you may have noticed, the council office, the parking lot is cut in half now because they have the homeless housing. And it's not going to be the council office. It's going to be offices for a series of different homelessness agencies. So there's nobody to open the doors for us. So it's just not really an option for our board meetings. There's not going to be enough parking. And I haven't even pursued it at this point for board meetings. I might pursue it for executive committee. So that's what I'm looking into to fill out.
But will this be affected by what Governor Newsom just did?
What Newsom just did was he suspended the Brown Act through September 30.
What was that? Sorry.
Governor Newsom just signed new orders continuing to suspend the Brown Act until September 30th. So it'd be effective in October on the state level. We got to go. But I don't know what the city's doing. Last sentence, most neighborhood councils have now asked Dunn to allow committees to continue to meet on Zoom if there's any way possible. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Bye, Laura. Bye, Greg. Thank you, Greg.
Bye. I'm ending the meeting.